Hello, I'm Diane with Kingwood Garden Center, and I plant up a lot of our ornamental plantings here at the nursery. One of the really fun planters that we have is this vertical garden, and it's a really nice piece. It's made of cedar, and right now I've actually just recently planted it up in the last week or so, and we have a lot of the fall flowers that will do really well fall through early, and some will actually go through the winter as well. But this is a great planter for a number of reasons. You know, when you use flowers like this, it's great to use a lot of flowers that trail. But when I planted this up, I look at it in a way as a canvas. And so it's really very pretty once, you know, it starts to grow and all of the colors start to blend together. So when I plant it up, I kind of keep in mind what it will look like as it's growing, and the color scheme. And, you know, there's a number of different types of plants that you can use in a vertical garden like this. Vertical gardening has become very popular, and I've seen, you know, different forms of it in a lot of different ways. A lot of people have been using succulents and herbs in their vertical gardens, and sometimes on a smaller scale. In a piece like this, you know, it would take quite a bit of succulents and herbs, but you could use things like this, which is a type of a sedum, and it would be very pretty in a vertical garden like this. You could use a variety of different things. You know, this is another type of succulent, and there's a lot of things that you could use. One thing that I like about using succulents, especially in pieces like this, is they like to be very dry. They like to sit on the dry side, and they require very good drainage. So in a vertical garden like this, it's very low maintenance because gravity kind of helps you along with the drainage, and when you're planting it, you kind of keep in mind it might sit a little bit wetter from the middle down and a little bit drier from the top up. But succulents would be a really good choice, and I think it'd be really pretty to do this whole thing in succulents. Also, another great choice would be herbs. I actually like to use herbs in my plantings a lot. I like to mix them with flowers. They're very tough, and they, you know, many of them trail, and they just add something a little bit different. I like to use thyme a lot because the leaves are small, and a lot of the thymes are variegated, or they have a yellow coloration to them, and they're very tough. Also, another really good herb to use would be a trailing rosemary. Trailing rosemary, very tough. It likes it on the dry side, so that would be a really good choice. So, you know, you could do a mixture of herbs and succulents in a vertical planter like this, or you could do all herbs. I've seen kitchen gardens done in vertical gardens like this, and it would be great because if you had it close to your patio door, it'd be really easy to harvest the herbs you needed for cooking. Another really good herb that you could use would be oregano, which is very tough. It's very cold hardy, so that would work very well. If you're going to plant flowers in a vertical garden, I think it's really important that you keep the color scheme in mind, and you use things appropriate to the season. Since we're moving into the fall and winter, I've tried to use things that like the cooler nights. We're warm now, but I want this to be long-lasting, and as we move into fall and early winter, I want this to be really pretty. Things that do really well during the fall season are calibrachoa. This is super bells, and this is a really good choice. And this is a plant that gets bushy and then it trails, and it comes in a lot of different colors. So I've used a white form of it right here. Snapdragons, there are tall forms of snapdragons and there are shorter forms. The shorter ones like Montego are bushier and they will trail just a little bit. And then up here I've used the taller snapdragons, and those are very pretty. The top part of this planter is also plantable, I would just keep in mind the watering. You want to be real careful that you give the plants in this system the amount of water that they prefer. So as I said, the bottom's going to sit a little bit wetter. When you have heavy rains, keep in mind that it might stay damp for a little bit longer. But things like petunias do really well in a planter like this. Petunias get bushy and they trail as well. This is lobelia, and this is a plant we wait for the weather to get a little bit cooler to plant because it's so pretty. It doesn't like our heat, but it's a beautiful plant that trails a sea of blue, and it likes the cooler nights and cooler mornings. But you can get it started in a little bit of heat like we are here, and it'll be beautiful by mid-fall. Another great plant that I've used in the planter is, this is called Snow Princess Alyssum. A lot of people are familiar with the sweet alyssum that it does well in the early spring and in the fall and sometimes through winter. The old-fashioned type of this plant prefers the cooler nights and cooler mornings. However, in the last couple years, this variety, which is called Snow Princess, has come out, and I've actually had mine for 3 or 4 years. It takes the heat extremely well, and it also will take the cool weather, and it's been perennial for me. It's a beautiful plant, and these are very young. I've just planted this, but you will just have a beautiful mass of white. You can cut it back if it gets a little bit, stringy when the flowers are spent, and it flushes back out very quickly and will start blooming again. So it's really a beautiful plant to use for the winter season because you get this beautiful sea of white flowers. Also, it's fragrant and smells really good, so that's a great choice. And a lot of the petunias that we're seeing now in the Super Tunia series will take the heat a lot better. Most of us know that petunias prefer the same thing, cooler nights and cooler evenings, so they do great in the springtime and in the fall. And most of them will go through the winter. But some of these newer varieties of the Super Tunias, they also will take the heat. So these are fine to plant now when we're still a little bit warm, and they have a very vigorous growth pattern, so you'll just have this beautiful sea of flowers. I've used a little bit of dianthus in this as well, which does also like the cooler temperatures. Dianthus is a perennial and stays evergreen. But really, it's your canvas, and you can, plant whatever flowers and whatever plants that you think would look beautiful. We have this where we're watering it by hand. However, there is a tubing system that runs through this planter, and it is possible to also hook up a rain collection system to it. I'm going to walk over here and we're going to take a look at our rain collection system because it's a great way to conserve water, and you can use the rainwater that comes in to water this. And so we're going to walk over here and take a look at that. So this is our rain collection barrel, and this can be hooked up to the vertical garden. And there's a valve right here where you can turn it off and on. Where we have it right now, you could place it wherever you like. You could have it right next to the vertical garden. And, as I said, there's tubing that runs throughout the vertical garden that can be hooked up to this. And So, and you can also use it, you can have the rain collection system next to it if you don't want to use the tubing and have it hooked up that way. Then you can actually, water it by hand. This is up on a tripod, and we do sell the rain collection barrels here at the nursery. The tripod is a separate piece, and I'm sure that you could design one that sits a little bit lower. But it's a great way to harvest the rainwater when we get it, and use that to water your plants.